Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and I've talked about red flag laws and other things that a lot of states are trying to do to basically crack down and gradually remove law-abiding citizens' rights. And this is the first time I've actually seen anyone basically strike back. It seems the FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, is being sued because they're not complying with the law. Now, if you look at it, Florida law, Section 790.065, Section 10. A licensed importer, licensed manufacturer, or licensed dealer is not required to comply with the requirements of this section in the event of failure of the Department of Law Enforcement to comply with the requirements of subsections 2 and 3. What it boils down to is, by law, background checks in Florida should take 24 or are supposed to take 24 hours or less. That's that simple. As a Texan, I find even that to be ridiculous because here, our background checks take minutes. Because why shouldn't they? With the technology we have available today, this is not like 1998 when I turned 21 and bought my first pistol. Even without the Brady Bill being in effect requiring the 5-day waiting period, which thank God expired, the background check itself took a couple of days. For those of you who are old enough, you'll remember the late 90s as the amazing era of dial-up and the first evolutions of high-speed, which were still telephone lines. So when I went in, filled out all my paperwork, submitted it, they took the firearm I wanted to buy, and they held it back, submitted my background check. That started the 5-day waiting period. They would receive the response or the results of that background check during the 5 days, and then I was able to pick up my firearm. Now, and I've told this story, I had a Springfield XDS 45 caliber. This is a concealed carry model, which consists of a lot of polymer where metal used to be. It's very compact, and in 45 ACP, kicks like a mule and jumps like a kangaroo on steroids. Not a good weapon for me. So I went back within days to the dealer I'd bought it from, sold it back to them, and I bought a Ruger 9mm, the LC9S. And both sales took about 30 minutes because I would fill out the long drawn-out thing on their tablet or computer. I would give it back to them. They would go over it, ask me, are all these answers correct, blah, blah, blah. They would submit, and within just probably about 10 minutes or less, they'd get the results back. We'd finalize the sale. In Florida, however, they may take up to 24 hours, and by law, the FDLE is required to have the results back to the person running the check within 24 hours. But they seem to be putting a lot of people into decision pending for indefinite amounts of time, some of them over a year. And you just know that if they hear of a dealer who is legally not complying with the requirements of that section because FDLE is taking days on end, weeks, months, or a year, they would try to shut them down. And that person would spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on a lawyer to go to court to say, Judge, here's the law. They're not complying, and by the law, I don't have to wait on them after 24 hours. And, of course, they're going to argue that the checks take longer and all the rest of it. This is a move by an anti-gunner to deprive Americans, who are law-abiding citizens, of their rights. While we hear clamoring and yelling and screaming about Georgia and Alabama passing their bills banning abortion, we hear very little about states breaking United States law by breaking the Constitution, violating it, by depriving law-abiding citizens of their constitutional rights while breaking their own state's laws. And, of course, this gets no coverage on CNN, MSNBC, any of them, because they agree with FDLE. If this was to be covered by Stelter or Acosta, Maddow, Brzezinski, Morning Joe, any of them, you can bet that they would be ranting about how the idiot lawyers for this class action lawsuit don't understand that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is just doing their due diligence, and you should respect it. And they would be all over it on the side of FDLE. And it's a bunch of crap is what it is, honestly. Imagine if there was a state law that said that a driver's license shall be issued or must be issued on the day of application, and a local DMV was telling people your decision is pending and waiting a year. You would have people up in arms because it's their right to drive, which is not in the Constitution anywhere. But when it is actually a constitutional right being violated, we hear nothing but crickets from the so-called mainstream media. Make no mistake, you're going to have high-powered, high-priced lawyers for the FDLE arguing that they have to be diligent and they have to make sure that they cover all their bases, and they have to be very careful to make sure that the background checks are done properly. And you're going to have them arguing everything that they can under the sun to defend FDLE's breaking of Florida law. And when, although there is an if, but if and when this goes the right way, and they are told, no, comply with the law, contact your state representative to request they change it, but until they do, you comply with the law, you're going to have story after story all over the Florida news, maybe even national, about a group of gun-loving hicks that are forcing the state to be dangerous and reckless. It's just a matter of time. We've had a death due to a red flag law. I believe it was in Connecticut, where two men get into an argument. The one who loses reports the other one as dangerous, and without even knowing it, a judge strips him of his Second Amendment rights. Police show up, don't knock, they just barge in and basically scream at him to hand over his guns. When he doesn't just instantly and smilingly comply, he is shot dead. And we later find out that it's because somebody lost an argument. There were no threats, no nothing. There was nothing that even hinted at the possibility that someone might be dangerous. There was an angry snowflake who lost an argument, and now a man is dead. And because that man, all he has to do is say, well, I felt threatened, he caused a man's death and will not face any consequences. This is just the beginning. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Liberals are at the point where they have grown to accept they can't just ban guns. So now they have to try backdoor gun bans with red flag laws. That, of course, when you tell a judge, you have to rule based on a preponderance of the evidence. And then you rig the system so that only the evidence you want is given, the judge will rule in your favor. And then every judge who does that is going to prefer not to let them expire, because I ruled you were dangerous. Now, if I rule you're not, if anything happens, they're on the line. This is going to be the same. FDLE is going to trot out their high-priced lawyers, and they're going to complain that they're being unfairly targeted for just doing their job. And they're going to cry and whine about anything and everything they can. So it's definitely a story to watch. I know I will be, but I've talked about it long enough. Let me know what you think. Remember, when you comment, keep it civil. We don't learn from argument, we learn from debate. As always, also make sure to like and share this video, as well as to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're kept abreast of all new content as it is posted. Until next time, everyone have a wonderful day.